Hello and welcome to Purple Hats 2021. Thank you very much for spending 10 minutes during this coffee break with us. My name is Eric Burkholder. I lead Technology Integration Program for Azure Sentinel. And today we'll take a little bit of time to talk about a new feature that we've added to Azure Sentinel to help make it easier to acquire rich content that helps us create visibility to the perturbations that, for example, AttackIQ can present in the SIEM, and what those automation tools and components are and how that can all be delivered via a solution. If you aren't already familiar with Azure Sentinel, it is our intelligent cloud-native SIEM. To that end, it has a data component, so a large database which we feed log information as well as alert and other information in order to be able to use the platform components to tease out additional signal, create new detections, or identify and correlate patterns of behavior, as well as support investigation and response. The components of an Azure Sentinel solution go across all of these particular areas, starting with data connectors. These enable the flow of information and bits into the Sentinel database. But there may be, now that that data is available in the database, there may be a variety of things that we want to enable for us as defenders or our potential customers to be able to make sense of that data. Starting with, is there any malicious behavior identified in that? And that could happen as a result of hunting, where we go looking for bad behavior, and we support that through artifacts called hunting queries, which can be run en masse to deliver a wide variety of information, or could be scoped down to a particular data type that's being delivered into the system, and we can begin hunting. And we can also build full-on guided hunting experiences via Azure Notebooks. These are actually hosted Jupyter Notebooks, and it's a very popular technique for creating a document with instructions and code that runs in context that can be shared around as a document amongst the threat hunting community, so you can work with your peers and your team members to create repeatable experiments that you work collectively to improve. Once we've identified or had a successful hunt, hopefully we also have a means of identifying the things that we found in that hunt again. And we might encode those as analytics rules. These are detection automation in Sentinel terminology. Analytics rules are queries that fire triggers. They can create alerts or incidents in a Sentinel database. They can also execute automation. This might be enrichment to help further an investigation and document additional data on an incident that's been created, so that when an analyst opens it in the investigative and response phase, already a vast amount of that information gathering has been done for them. It might also include workbooks. These are visualizations about the data, the alerts, the flows, patterns that might help somebody understand what's going on in an environment, purely as queries shown as visualizations and dashboards. And then finally, we might also include exploration queries and automations, specifically playbooks, custom logic apps adapters, and other things that help an analyst either gather additional information from external systems or reach out to external systems to effect a remediation, for example, blocking an IP address that's associated with a known C2 that's been cited in your system. So all of these things can be easily packaged up and delivered as an Azure Sentinel solution, and it creates a powerful customer experience for automated acquisition of a vast amount of this in a single click. So let's take a look at that. Okay, we've talked a little bit about what solutions can contain. Let's take a look at what it looks like to deploy them and what you can do with them. So I've logged into one of my Azure Sentinel workspaces. This is the main overview page that customers are used to seeing. I've dropped down here to the solutions preview area. And we can see we have a list of solutions available for deployment. I'm actually going to choose Cloudflare because this is actually quite sophisticated solution that has a lot of complex content that's deployed with it. It includes a data connector, a parser, a workbook, an analytic rule, and hunting queries. So we'll go ahead and create this. I need to specify where I would like this created, and I'm going to put it into one of my resource groups and one of my workspaces. Next, let's talk about configuring the things that I'm going to deploy, if there's any other things that I can configure. In this case, there's no configuration associated at deployment time for the connector, but it will deploy a data connector, which enables me to connect up the plumbing that makes event and alert information flow from Cloudflare into my Sentinel workspace. This does deploy a workbook. I can change the name of this workbook. I'll leave it as Cloudflare, just for convenience sake. This also deploys 10 analytics rules, and these are the 10 that it's going to deploy and what they do. And it will also deploy 10 hunting queries. And we'll take a look at these in a second as well. At this point, let's see if we've answered all the questions correctly in order to be able to deploy. We have. Validation has passed, so we'll click Create. All right, so it has completed my deployment. So I'll jump back into my Sentinel workspace, and let's take a look at what's actually been deployed. If you remember, there was a workbook deployed. And if we look in my saved workbooks under my workbooks, we'll see that a Cloudflare workbook has been deployed. There were some new hunting queries deployed, specifically for Cloudflare. I have more than 200 hunting queries enabled in this workspace at the moment, but we can search and just select the Cloudflare queries, provided I can spell properly. And we could begin executing queries on just the Cloudflare queries. All 10 of these map to the initial access MITRE stage, and 4 of them also map to the impact stage. And we also talked about analytics rules. I have quite a lot of analytics rules enabled in my workspace, but once again, we can just search for the ones that we just deployed, in this case the Cloudflare ones. So at this point, once I turn on my connector and allow data to flow, I can immediately begin hunting using hunting queries developed by folks that understand the nuance of unusual behavior that could be detected in Cloudflare supplied data. I can immediately have analytics firing on alert rules that come through the Cloudflare supplied data that might result in incidents being placed in my work queue that as an analyst I can begin investigating. And finally, I'd like to leave you with one other place that as defenders we can find content to help us search for unusual behavior or unworthy behavior in our data. And this is our GitHub repo, where we have the home to the Azure Sentinel Threat Hunters community. This is a community of practitioners and SOC analysts and other content creators that share their expertise, their learnings, their workbooks and playbooks and hunting queries, and guided hunting experiences in the form of notebooks. I encourage you to go to github.com/whack-azure, whack-azure sentinel, whack to the wiki, and take a look at some of the additional content that you can add in addition to the solutions that we've talked about here. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.